Get ready with me whilst I get you ready for the 2025 F1 Academy season, because I'm going to give you the lowdown on what happened last season and what I'm expecting to see this season. Over 2 seasons, we have had 35 races and 13 race winners, which I think is a pretty decent percentage. And this season, 12 out of 18 drivers were not full-time drivers last season, so I think we are very likely to see a significant increase in the number of new race winners. Now, admittedly, we don't know a lot about 2/3 of the grid because they're new, or basically new, but I think that's one of the most exciting parts of the F1 Academy, because as we've seen in F1 this year, there is a lot of potential in rookies. Some of them can pull off incredibly impressive performances from race 1. However, we have 4 of the wildcards from last season joining the grid full-time, and that's Gateman, Pomowski, Lloyd and Crone. And what I'll say about them is there is definitely a reason why they got their seat. They were so good. Also, there are 6 drivers remaining from 2024, so I can talk about what to expect from them a little bit more. When it comes to winning the Drivers' Championship, you'll want to be watching out for Dorian Pan. She had a great start to the 2024 season and she was one of the drivers that people were watching. But then she had some injuries and she didn't win the championship, but she definitely could have if things had played out a little differently. Also, Virgus moved teams, but she was often a driver that was on the podium and she got her maiden win in Abu Dhabi. Chambers, Block and Houseman often finished in the midfield. Chambers frequently got into battles. Block had really good development and Houseman definitely has potential. She just got unlucky with a couple of things that were out of her control. Then there is Nobles, who finished in P12, but I remember writing that she was frequently overtaking when I was making notes for the F1 Academy series that I co-host on the 107 podcast. Also, for the past 2 years, Prema Racing has won the Constructors' Championship, so given the fact that there haven't been any major changes to the car spec for this season, they probably will have the upper hand. Plus, they do have a really strong driver lineup. But because the grid has changed so much, you never know with these things. Finally, we are racing at 7 circuits, but Shanghai, Montreal and Las Vegas are all new to the schedule. And based on what we've seen in F1, Shanghai and Montreal should really test the drivers, whilst Las Vegas should produce quite an exciting race because we see a number of overtakes there. In fact, I'm really looking forward to Las Vegas because the Abu Dhabi races last year were arguably the best ones of the entire season, and that took place at the end of the season. So I think by then they will be quite comfortable with their cars and that will really help. But Saudi Arabia, Miami, Netherlands and Singapore are all making a return, and they were all decent rounds, arguably Miami and Netherlands being my favourites. And that's about all the context you need to know going into the 2025 F1 Academy season. Oh, and also they are bringing out a documentary on Netflix from the 2024 season, which will be super interesting to watch.